Hello again. So far I've only had one vote, and Gabriel voted for Horrible Harry in room 2B. And one of my reading groups is currently reading Horrible Harry and the Ant Invasion. So if you're in that reading group with me, same kid, still horrible. So I'm just going to read the first chapter. I'm going to try to show you pictures, but it is a chapter book, so there's not a lot of pictures. And the first thing we do when we read a book, we look at the picture, and we can probably guess who Horrible Harry is. This guy acting bad right here. And it looks like he has a snake, and he's scaring this girl, and this boy is watching right here. So we're going to try to figure out who the characters are and what's going on, right? First chapter is called Horrible Harry and Me. Me, so that means that it's what point of view? First or third when you hear the word me or I or we. Think about it. Harry sits next to me in room 2B. He looks like any other second grader except for one thing. Harry loves to do horrible things. When I first met Harry out on the playground, he had a shoebox. I asked him, "What's in there?" "Something." "What's your name?" "Doug," I said. I see an eye. So what point of view is that? First point of view. And now we know who the narrator is. Doug. That's the narrator, that's the main character, and that's who's telling us our story. Want to see a girl scream? Doug? Before I could say anything, Harry took off after Song Lee. When he trapped her by the tree, he opened up his box and dangled a garter snake in her face. Song Lee screamed. That's when I first saw Harry do something horrible. When it rains, we have recess indoors. Sometimes we play a game called 7-Up. When it's Harry's turn to be up, everyone wonders, will Harry tap me on the head? Harry presses his knuckles down hard on your skull. He calls them knuckle noogies. Nobody should give anybody knuckle noogie, but Harry does. So Harry sounds pretty horrible. Harry loves to do horrible things. The second week of school, Sydney called Harry a name. It was during science when we were reading about birds. "Harry's a canary," Sydney whispered, and a lot of kids laughed. "What's so funny?" the teacher asked. "Nothing, Miss Mackle," Sydney replied. Harry didn't think it was nothing. Harry planned to get revenge after school, and he did. At 3:05, Harry jumped Sydney, pinned him to the ground, and said, "Say I love girls twice." "Never," Sydney said, trying to get away. So when I was reading this, when I was up here, I thought, is Sydney a girl or a boy? Because that's one of those names that could be both. And then down here it says he pinned him to the ground. So then I knew that Sydney is a boy character and that Harry is trying to make him say he loves girls, which little boys and girls don't like to admit. "Never," Sydney said, trying to get away. Yeah. And that's when Harry started to tickle Sydney under the armpits until Sydney couldn't stand it any longer. And then in capital letters it says, "I love girls! I love girls!" Look at that, capital letters and exclamation point. Sydney shouted. Song Lee, Ida, and Mary heard Sydney. So did a lot of the boys. Harry got his revenge. All right. And it was horrible. Sydney ran down the street screaming, "I'll get you back someday." Here are the girls, kind of giggling and listening. And here's Harry, tickling Sydney, making him say it. When Miss Mackle wants the floor cleaned, she asks Harry to sweep. No one sweeps the floor like Harry. He picks up every piece of paper, every pencil stub, and every bit of clay. Once Harry even crawled under my desk to get a broken crayon. Nobody knows that Harry keeps some of that stuff. Keeps is in italics, so that's a word we're going to stress. Then here's a picture of him crawling under the desk. So we know the narrator is Doug telling the story, and there's Harry picking up a broken crayon. But I sit right next to him and watch. Harry is making stub people. Stub people. Harry says his stub people are the scariest creatures in the world. He keeps them in his cigar box in his desk. Someday, when he has made 24, Harry says his stub people will invade our room. It won't be long, Doug, he whispered. Soon the stub people will bring doom to room 2B. When it was Song Lee's birthday, her mother brought in 2 trays of treats for the class. After we sang happy birthday, Song Lee passed out the treats. Miss Mackle noticed there were 3 fortune cookies and 1 cupcake left. Miss Mackle put them on a plate with a card that said, "We love Mrs. Mackelson." Michelson? I think it's Michelson. See? I'm a teacher, and I'm still not quite sure sometimes, but I'm going to say Michelson. Then she said, "Who would like to take these treats to our librarian?" And that's when I can infer that the librarian's name is Mrs. Michelson. Everyone raised their hand except Song Lee. She's too shy. We kept raising her hands. Sydney made noises like, "Ooh, me, me, me." Miss Mackle picked Harry and me. She knows we're not afraid to go upstairs where the big kids are. When we are walking up the stairs to the library, Harry asked me if I wanted to split the cupcake. Uh-oh. "That's for the librarian," I said. Mrs. Michelson. I'm sorry, I just got a message and it vibrated my camera. "Mrs. Michelson just likes yogurt and carrots," Harry replied. "We'll be doing her a favor." And so we both promised, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye, that we would never tell on each other. Then we ate the librarian's cupcake. Sometimes Harry gets me to do horrible things. So we know this is Doug, this is Harry, and that's them getting the cupcake. The day before Columbus Day, Harry came to school with a tattoo on his arm. It was a skull and crossbones. Harry said the sea pirate Long John Silver made his tattoo. I know Harry did it with a magic marker. I think he just wanted to show off in front of Song Lee. When Harry went to his seat, he took out his writing folder. He wrote 2 pages about his adventures at sea. And you can see it's all coming from his mind. There's a lot going on there. Harry said he met a mermaid, ate a sea turtle, and dug up a treasure. Miss Mackle put Harry's story up on the bulletin board. She said Harry has a lot of ideas. Harry has never eaten a sea turtle. Harry has never seen a mermaid. Harry has never been to the sea. And I know Harry can't even spell sea. He's horrible at spelling, too. Harry is not like any other second grader in our room. I know all about Harry. Harry's my best friend. And that's the end of chapter 1. If you want to use this for your reading log for Mrs. Dorsey, you can. And I'll read the next chapter tomorrow. And the next chapter is called The Stub People. And I'll show it to you. Horrible Harry, the Stub People, and Halloween. So we'll see how that goes. All right. I'll talk to you guys later, and make sure you comment on Google Classroom so I know you're listening.